everybody, Mrs. Bianchi. Point A is shown on the number line below. What is the location of point A? And I thought it would be helpful. I actually made a bigger version of the line so we could look at it and I can write on it. It's very important when you see these types of number lines to establish how many spaces are there between the integers. So for example, if we count between the -1 and the -2, just as an example of two integers that we should be counting, we need to count the spaces. So I'm going to start from over here actually. So that's one space, that's two spaces, that's three spaces, that's four spaces, and that's five spaces. So if you think you miscounted, maybe count between the 0 and the -1. So that's one space, that's two spaces, that's three spaces, that's four spaces, that's five spaces. So five spaces between each integer. Now, what does that mean as far as the denominator? If you're going to make a fraction out of that, so let's talk about this first space, right? This notch right here. If this is 0, anything going this way has to be negative. And we just said that there are five spaces. So this is the first space after the 0. So it would be a -1/5. So that means that this would be -2/5. This would be -3/5. This would be -4/5. And this -1 would be equal to -5/5. Now I'm going to leave these as improper fractions just because I think it's going to help some people. And then we'll go back to what if you understand it better as mixed numbers. All right, so if at the end of this blue notch is -5/5, that means that right here would be -6/5, -7/5, -8/5, right? -8/5. Now the issue that we have here is that these are all decimals. So we have a couple options. One option is we know it's going to be negative, so we have to do a negative something, right? To get the something, we can just take the numerator, which is 8, and divide it by the denominator, which is 5. All right, and again, we know it's going to be a negative, so why don't we just bring that negative sign over there immediately so we don't forget. We know 5 is going to go into this once. And if we subtract, we get the 3 left over, bring down the 0, and 5 would go into 30 how many times? So you're going to finish it up. You're going to finish figuring out this digit right here that I'm making a yellow box for, and it's going to be one of these answers. Now, if you're not a fan of improper fractions, I do want to show you another way that you can do this. So, again, you would want to establish that these are chunks, and the chunks would be fifths. So you could say to yourself -1/5, -2/5, -3/5, -4/5, and -1. Then you would say -1 and 1/5, -1 and 2/5, -1 and 3/5. So if you like that approach better, this is equivalent to -1 and 3/5. And then you could just, in order to get what I have here in this yellow box, or what you're going to be calculating yourself, you could always just say it's going to be a -1 point something, and then you could just do the 3 divided by 5 to get the value that you'd be putting in this yellow box. All right, either way would work. Might not be a bad idea to do it both ways just to make sure you have the right answer.